Hello, good afternoon. I want to take a moment here for today and talking about the importance of emotional cords, emotional entanglements, and what's the importance of them. And this was a lesson I learned earlier in my 30s, in my mid-30s, towards my 40s. And thank goodness I found out about all this. So let's see where this is going to go. So I mentioned a few of my videos here that we show up here as a volunteered ambassador for the soul. The soul comes from the universe, and if you think of it as the universe is very expansive. We volunteered on behalf of the soul to come live into this 3D world. And to give you some context, this 3D realm that we're living in here is at the bottom of the barrel in comparison to the vibrations and the energy within the universe. So we're in the toughest school ground here. When we show up here, we come here with well-chosen parents, the well-chosen family, the family dynamics, the family, the culture, religion, and that beautiful thing later on in life called an emotional experience. And the soul's entrusting that at one point we don't get stuck by it. You may have asked yourself at one point, like, what on earth am I doing here? What's my purpose? What am I meant to be doing here? And I found out that later on, in order to find out what a person's purpose is, or their destiny, or what they're really coming here to do, and I like to share from my own experience, it's not a matter of just going to the post-secondary schooling system or doing an apprenticeship, which is all great. I went to school as a commercial pilot, and while I'm doing other forms of apprenticeship, which I'm very grateful for, I learned a lot. I kept moving with it. When we show up here, the soul's asking that we all have these things called emotional cords or emotional entanglements. And it's not the first time that we keep showing up here. So every lifetime when we're showing up here is technically as a recycled experience, because the past lifetime, the energies weren't closed properly. So when we show up here on behalf of the soul's huge. So there's a tiny part of the soul, and we have 50% of the say. The soul has 50% while we show up here. And ourselves, when we're here, we have 50% of the say in the contract, as this contract is binding with the universe, with the soul. And we also have volunteered spiritual guides from the light that are assisting us with getting us back on track with where we need to be going with things. These emotional cords, wherever they're coming from, they're things that there's an energy that's felt, and especially depending on the severity of it or the impact, and there's no judgment, there's no blame with it. When a person gets stuck by it, when they get stuck, there's an emotional cord there, and when they get stuck, this is what holds things in place. In order to break free from it, at one point those energies need to get cut and then unplugged. So what am I referring to when I'm referring to the cords or the energies from this? So when we show up here for the first 3 months, from the spiritual side, when we show up into this 3D world, the first 3 months from inside of the mummy's tummy, you start recording everything within this thing called the subconscious, and it records everything with how's mom feeling, how's dad feeling. And for some people may have very, very clear memories of, oh my gosh, I'm in this 3D world, or my gosh, I'm here now. And some people are either asking or praying or thinking, like, how do we get out of it? And the moment we're in the mummy's tummy, this is when the game begins, and there's no getting out of it. And there's no getting out of it, unless the soul decides at one point either to abort it, or to get out of it, or do any other type of complications, or whatever the interference is, either mentally or emotionally. These are all life lessons that's induced either by the soul, that's well chosen or well set up here. And from the soul's perspective, the soul's an energy, it was a massive entity. It registers everything in terms of the frequency, energy, and vibration. And as a spiritual being living a physical life here, we're coming here, we physically feel things. This is the big thing here. So a big reason I'm showing up here is to do the emotional cleanup. So whatever is in the emotional knapsack, whatever wasn't processed, whatever wasn't addressed, and they can come in all forms of abuse or karma or any interferences, or within the family lineage or the family ancestry. It can be a particular feeling, a particular dis-ease, or whatever has been in your lineage, either as a suppressed or as a spiritual gift. And the soul's asking that when we show up here in this low frequency energy, this is the place where, in order for the soul to keep moving and growing, and for ourselves here, make yourself as an example, is to go back in there and then release all these 3D emotional entanglements. So if you can think of it as an extension cord, or give it as a better example, think of it as a rose bush. We all have 7 chakras, and the big one here initially is the subconscious, because it records everything. With your spiritual guides from the light, and once you have the awareness of whatever that interference was from childhood, once you start finding that energy, you can literally unplug that cord wherever it's coming from. And when you unplug it, you can pull out all the emotional entanglements, things like the initial triggers, the initial boiler points, any of the perceptions, any of the experiences, and there's no judgment, there's no blame with this. Whatever it is, you're either having a tough time forgiving, not letting go of, whatever the initial lesson was that you had to learn from it, whether it was either dealing with relationships, stability in the family, divorce, separation, tough time expressing, tough time talking, if there was an abuse of the spiritual gifts or the abuse of power, or from something that was either perceived either through the family or through somebody else. And when the soul chooses a certain type of parents, they're choosing well-chosen parents to push a person to the max, so at one point later on, while physically here, they can go back on the inside and then literally start to unplug all this. And the moment it's done in this physical realm, spiritually, energetically on the soul side, the soul is then able to liberate itself from all the recycled past lifetimes where it was stuck with the same repeated nonsense. I found out early on that this is not only my first lifetime, but there's many other lifetimes where I was in different cultures, different backgrounds, in different countries, and either being very successful or in other lifetimes where it was like, oh my gosh, what happened there? So in this lifetime, I found out that as I kept unplugging all this is the cool part. The moment you start unplugging all of it, bit by bit you can start seeing where the purpose is going. In this 5D consciousness, in order to go for a purpose or a destiny, or with what our real potential is, you cannot go anywhere in this new consciousness but still holding on to the old 3D programs or the old 3D emotional baggage from the past. So think of it as a number of black clouds in front of a person's eyes. Through the proper guided meditations, meaning connecting with your spiritual guides from the light, and it takes work doing this. When the proper meditations, when they're being facilitated properly with the light, and once the negative energy starts being cut and released, step by step over a period of time, and it's not like it takes a lifetime anymore. For gosh sakes, off a couple programs, you can go in there within several weeks or a couple months, you can do it like a crushing amount of positive damage with this by unplugging all of the negative energies. And what I'm saying with that, it's like the extension cord. You're literally pulling out all the interferences from mom, from dad, from the siblings, from the family, the culture, whether it's one culture or multiple cultures. Same thing with the religion, from anything from the environment, or for some people may have past lifetime memories of this. And it's the same thing. You can literally go in there and you can literally unplug all of it. And once it's unplugged, it's out of the system. So we're in a physical body, it's the etherical part that needs to get addressed. And I got fascinated with this. The moment when the proper cord got taken out, you can also reverse any diseases as long as a person is willing to let go of the past, let go of the resistance, as we all have free will. And no one can override anyone's free will. This includes whatever you want to believe, either as saints, God, source, creator. They cannot intervene because we all have that thing called free will. And the moment you decide that enough's enough, you want to get out of the mess, or there's certain things from the past, you're like, man, this is not serving me anymore. Once you go in there and you take it out of your system, this is what can free a person or liberate a person very, very quickly with this. So something I just wanted to share with today, that this for me was well above and beyond anything from the post-secondary school, because it just ties in directly with the soul and with the universe. And it taught me that it wasn't so much the degree, it wasn't the diplomacy, it wasn't the title or any of that. It was going back and literally addressing the basics. The basics meaning the stability, leadership, relationships, the ability of expressing, the freedom, the real freedom of being free of any negative thinking, negative thoughts, being free of negative people, toxic relationships, being with an open heart, with an awakened heart. In this 5D here, a lot are awakening into this. We're all tapping into our spiritual gifts. So with that, you're also coming in there to release any of the abuse of the spiritual gifts, right? The things like either the fear of being successful, the fear of failure, or the abuse of power, or really being in one's power with this. Or for those that are really coming here to close whatever it is from the past, once it's closed properly, this is where step by step, it's like taking a degree or any apprenticeship. You got to put the time in. And once the time's served and once you earn the trust back with your soul and with the universe, this is where you can start operating on a whole other way of being, a whole other way of living, and enjoying your life on a whole other set of terms. So that's my introduction there, with sharing things about the emotional cords. And with, I mean, you can unplug things like from old movies or from anything toxic, or anything like from TV or music stuff, or things like report cards. And I'm sharing this because from that one experience from childhood, it might be that tiny, tiny, tiny thing. And the moment you have that awareness and you say, I'm done with it and want to release it, once you unplug it and you place it into the field, it's gone, and it's gone for good. And it's simply having the attention and the awareness of it. And once you become aware of it, going forward, it's then making a better choice, a better decision, and saying, thank you for the lesson, get the hell out of it, and do whatever you come in here to do. Live with integrity, being happy, being joyful, and being fulfilled, and enjoying your days. So, there. Trust that, I feel better with that. So, be kind with yourself, treat each other well, and enjoy the rest of your day, and until next time, take care. Hello, good afternoon. See what's going to come out of this for today. What's the importance of releasing emotional entanglements, emotional cords, and why should I be paying attention to this? So, I've mentioned a few times that we volunteer on behalf of the soul as a volunteered assignment showing up here. The soul chooses well-intentioned parents, culture, religion, and background, and we come from, whatever you want to call it, from the universe. We have high dimensional energy, and then when we splash into this 3D world, the intention with the soul is we need an ambassador, because the soul's not going to jeopardize placing itself from way up there in the high frequency to this lower frequency density. It doesn't work like that. So the rules of the game are that when we show up here, we're volunteering on behalf of the soul to experience the lower frequency energies, and then at one point doing the shadow work, or the way I would describe it, is going in back on the inside, and what's the software running within the subconscious, within the heart, within the lower base chakras, specifically the base chakra, and within the sacral. And then at one point, taking the responsibility and the ownership of it and saying, okay, it's run its course. I appreciate, I thank for I'm grateful and thankful for all the experiences with it. I'm now already say with upgrading, or with being the responsible adult, we're going in on the inside and addressing it, saying, thank you for whatever the experience was growing up. I'm now willing to let it go and embodying the new updates or the new software or whatever is required with this. From my experience, as I've been doing, from my experience with this, every feeling that when we show up here, it's the feeling that gets a person stuck. So when we show up here as a spiritual being, the soul itself is already as an energy. And what the soul's getting at is it has all these emotional memories of all these past lifetimes and the one that's going on right now, as the soul's watching exactly with what's going on in this current lifetime. So if the soul's not happy with where things are going with it, the soul is 50% sage, saying at one point either it's going to invoke an interrupt, or is an interrupt, a wake up, a shake up. It can also induce things like a stroke or a heart attack, or even put a person down to their knees, or put them in the hospital for 1 or 2 months to get them back on course. So why am I emphasizing this? While I'm mentioning about all this, these are some of the basics that when I got involved with this many years ago, there's things called the emotional cords or the entanglements. So we're living in a physical body, and there's a spiritual side of us. That spiritual side all has those foundational energies that prior to when we show up here, when we're inside of our mommy's tummy, for those first 9 months, the first 3 months, where they're building up all the cells, and but the third month there, so when the subconscious kicks in and starts recording everything. So this is where all the initial programming begins. So later on in life, if you're not happy with the programming, with whatever it is, and again, there's no judgment and there's no blame with this, because you have no idea where the parents are coming from, or from the parents themselves, what they got stuck with, or what information or emotional baggage they were carrying with them from the past lifetime, or from this lifetime. So if you think of it, like for the cell phones or for any appliance, wherever that cord's plugged into, it's the same thing in this physical, or more importantly, into the theoretical body. And the moment, let's say, they have the awareness of saying, well, man, from childhood I had this type of experience, or I wasn't happy that I had going through this type of a culture, or growing up from that type of a culture had all this stigma or all this racism attached to it, or from the family, the resistance that going on, or growing up I had to attend this type of religion or this type of a church system, or growing up with whatever the childhood experience was or the family experience. We're in a new energy right now. So the universe itself is in the 5D, and then we've splashed into this 3D realm. The soul's asking, as the soul vibrates way, way, way high with this, when we show up into this 3D world, here's to unplug all of this 3D energy. And the 3D energy is anything that you see in the news, anything that's either toxic or negative, and it's simply to clear out any and all of the cesspool type emotional energies, with no judgment, with no blame with it, and placing any of the energies into the field, meaning that it's going to be as a closed file. So when this was introduced to me, I was like, man, I got something really tangible in my hands with this. So the guided meditations are, when it's done with those from the light, or you want to call them as angels or spiritual guides from the light, they're the ones that are facilitating it, and they're the ones that assist one with whatever happened from the past. You can go in there and start unplugging all this stuff. I'm sharing this because at one point, after my 5th near-death experience, when I left the physical body and I went into the spiritual realm, everything and anything that wasn't dealt with in this lifetime, energetically I carried with me to the other side. So I'm going to re-emphasize that. Anything and everything throughout this lifetime, and it's not that we just leave here and everything disappears. So when we leave here, we want to make, I'm saying from my own experience, do things to the best of your ability and having a closure with this. Otherwise, there's a binding contract with the soul, with the universe, and with their spiritual guides, and we come back here for the same crap, for the same shit, until at one point someone says enough's enough, and then going on the inside and start to unplug all these cords of this. You can still have the same conversation with the parents, the family, with anyone else, and the most important part is after it's unplugged properly, there's no internal friction on the inside. So the emotional cords, the big ones and the toughest cords, are those that are initially coming from mom and dad, from the family, the culture, the religion. Everything that comes from the fetus, from the inner child, from the growing up type of experiences. And I'd say later on in life is if you're attracting certain people or certain relationships, and if you're not happy with them, you need to go back and say, identify. You have certain people that are showing up where you feel triggered by it, or certain people that keep showing up, like, I don't want to attract this stuff anymore. But you need to go back in through the younger year experiences and asking yourself, where did you initially attract this from? And the moment you start unplugging those cords from the initial trigger of all this, all the energies and all the memories on top, they automatically start to collapse because there's nothing underneath it to support it anymore. So I found this to be as a major, major gift or blessing. And when I found out about it, well, I'm simply sharing about it now. And it's so cool because in this 5D consciousness, you can literally go in there. And I've learned a lot of things, and specifically with the heart chakra, the heart itself, there's a physical heart, and then in the center we have the heart chakra. Now the heart chakra is connected directly to the soul. So there's things like, if you don't like certain movies, or something that's graphic, or like in horror films, or from past memories, or from people or individuals that were in certain cultures that experienced a lot of heavy trauma, you can go in there, you can energetically unplug all this. You can literally unplug it. And when you unplug it, you can say thank you very much, and then move on with your life with this. And what I'd like to share is, when I got into this, it was the most coolest thing. It was kind of like stepping into the unknown, and at the same hand, it was kind of like, oh my God, like, what have I got myself into? It was like this energetic shield or an energetic veil around us. And the moment I took that leap of faith with the universe, and I got introduced to the healing arts, I said, I'm committed, I'm ready with jumping in. It's like I started feeling and sensing everything. And it was a very, very surreal, it was a very unique experience. And as long as I kept moving with it, bit by bit, as I started releasing all those emotional masks, it was the most freeing and most liberating thing I've ever done. So I'm sharing this here because I'm aware that it's not just me, there's many others out there that are stuck, and it could be something as simple as one word, or from one childhood experience where from that one tiny thing, that thing, the moment that's released, all the other interferences later on in life, you can have the whole thing collapse, meaning you can have it all cleared out energetically. And the cool part is when enough is cleared out of it from the subconscious here, when I go to bed at night, it's like literally 3 to 5 seconds later, I'm out. There's no thoughts, there's no interruptions, and being embodied with a good night's rest. So, simply sharing this, and more videos to come. So, with whatever you're doing, enjoy your day. Be kind with yourself, treat each other well. Until next time, enjoy your day.